What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we're talking about this.
I am aware of a US retrieval team that has gone into North Korea to retrieve non-human technology that's caused some mischief here.
You're going
yes,
for it.
this has happened. There have been retrievals of purported non-human technology from North Korea by a US Special Forces team. Suck on that.
Hi, Vetters. Please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Now, what's today's video about? Well, it's about Ross Coulthart and some, dare I say it, bombshell claims that he just made. See, guys, this is why I use bombshell, because people drop these extraordinary claims that any other day would be actual bombshell claims, but they're dropped weekly, y'all. That's why I use it, okay? It's just an irony and sort of a pushback against this. Can't all be bombshell news, right? Like, I'm trying to mirror and reflect back the absurdity of a lot of these claims, right? Because all of these claims that come out every week, almost daily, alone on the surface would be world humanity changing, right? It just goes to show, right? I mean, you think that's how many claims are coming out weekly? No, right? So again, we got Ross Coulthart coming forward with a story that, American special forces went into North Korea to recover non-human technology, albeit a craft, a laser gun, who knows, right? So this is going to be an interesting video. Let's get started.
All right, Ross. Ryan from Somewhere in the Skies podcast wrote into us on email. Hi, Megan and Ross. About 9 months ago, a former Korean military serviceman named Bae Song-deok came forward to speak about very dramatic UFO landing that occurred in a demilitarized zone in 1982 in Korea that he personally witnessed. According to him, the craft was circular and absolutely massive in size. Without giving anything away, as we know your stance on this, Ross, is this a story we should continue to look at in connection to the UFO with a building built around it in Korea, or should we take the story of Mr. Song-deok as something entirely separate from that? Keep up the good work, Ryan.
Oh, no, I'm going to answer that pretty quickly and easily. I'm going to say that the case is an interesting one. It has nothing to do with the large UFO that I've talked about previously, but it's certainly a fascinating case. And completely independent of both cases, I am aware of a US retrieval team that has gone into North Korea to retrieve non-human technology that's caused some mischief here.
You're going
yes,
for it.
this has happened. There have been retrievals of purported non-human technology from North Korea by a US Special Forces team. Suck on that.
You went for it. You couldn't help yourself.
All right, so the end there is kind of hilarious. I mean, on one end, I get it. Ross is being playful. He's having fun. And, no problem, right? I get it. You're recording, you're just laughing about things. I get it. But at the same time, it's like, suck it to who? Who are you talking to, right? Who are we talking to? I think people like Ross get upset that people ask for evidence when they say things, right? They come out with story. Hey, I was just told this. I'm just telling you. Right. And then you go, well, where's the evidence? Well, hey, don't come after me. Well, you want the praise for coming out with the story, but not the criticism of where is the evidence. Right. So, again, another extraordinary claim that would be world changing, humanity changing, right? For the millions of years that humanity has existed, I don't know how long, maybe longer. You know, this claim right here would change everything. And this stuff comes out again, multiple times a week with zero evidence, right? So we just hear these things. What are we supposed to do with this information? Right? Now, it starts from Ryan Sprague, who from Somewhere in the Skies podcast. Shout out to Ryan. Great guy, great podcast. Check it out. He asked Ross a question about a guy that came out, a Korean who claims to have seen a UFO, right? So here's a short clip to kind of give you a little background and context on that particular story.
그 21사단 65연대 853GP에 근무할 당시에 그때가 아마 82년 5월 23일 날짜로 기억이 되는데 그때 853GP에서 근무할 때 그 당시에 우리 GP에는 포병 관측 장교 1명,
네.
그 다음에 포병 관측병 1명, 그 다음에 우리 GP 요원 30명, 이렇게 32명이 이제 근무할 때입니다.
네.
그래서 이제 그때 이제 오후 1시 한 30분쯤에 이제 포병 관측병이 최초 발견을 해가지고 오전 오후에
네.
포 발사 훈련을 합니다.
네.
그 이제 그때 아마 한 1시 반쯤에 뜻다포 하면서 이래 할 때 그때 발견을 해가지고 포대경으로 발견해가지고 이제 내한테 나는 상황병이었으니까
네네.
내한테 알려줘가지고 상황실에 있는 망원경으로 관측한 결과 UFO로 이제 제가 확인을 했습니다. 그 UFO 형상은 은색 빛이 이렇게 나면서
Which is interesting. That guy seems, he seems interesting, right, to say the least. There's no way to verify if what he saw was an alien spaceship, right? But nonetheless, he told his story. And I'm glad he told his story, right? Nothing wrong with that. We want people to come forward and tell their stories. It's the people that come forward going, someone told me a story, secret source, the secret thing happened. Whatever. Anyway, Ryan is basically asking if that story you just heard is in connection to the UFO too big to move story, right? And if you're not familiar with that, here's Stephen Greer, yes, Stephen Greer, to talk about it.
Dr. Greer, you have said publicly that this is outside Seoul, South Korea. Is that accurate?
One of them. Now, remember, I have debriefed almost 800 whistleblowers who've had direct involvement with this. One of them was with the Pentagon for about 8 years as a very senior investigator and had baseline clearance across 18 black project, unacknowledged special access projects. He specifically knew of the one in the mountains outside Seoul, South Korea. It was so huge they had to build a structure around it, and he was read into this in between 2002 and 2010.
Okay.
So it had been there for some time.
So look, I've made tons of videos about this UFO too big to move, and it's actually Ross who came forward with the story on Project Unity's podcast years ago. I made several videos about it. He came forward and talked about it. Then Rep Burleson actually recently has been investigating it.
You made a claim this weekend that I thought was remarkable, a craft too big to move. Can you unpack that for us?
I was told that in a skiff and also outside of one that there is a craft at a location in a foreign country that is too big to move. They built a building around it. It's in a foreign country and it is a U.S. installation. I can't say anything more than that.
It's on like a U.S. military base installation.
I can't really say anything more than that. What I can say is that it would be quite a trip to get there. I'm going to continue to do research.
But no one talked about where it was, and everyone tried to figure it out until Stephen Greer came out talking about it and just blatantly said it's in Korea, South Korea, near Seoul specifically, right? Which is near the border of North Korea, right? Seoul is in southern Korea, right on the border, right? Anyway, so allegedly are these things connected, right? I guess is what Ryan was asking. And, Ross is like, no, but let me drop this other thing, right? This other North Korean incident that happened. Wait, what? I don't know if people understand the implications of North Korea, right? How complicated North Korea is and the relationship that North Korea and South Korea have, right? Because this idea that American special forces went on this mission in North Korea to retrieve non-human technology is insane. Now, look, this isn't the first time that America has tried a mission in North Korea, right? And most recently, a story came out that I think is relevant. It has nothing to do with UFOs, but has everything to do with the Special Forces mission in North Korea.
The dangerous mission by SEAL Team 6 that reportedly failed. The New York Times reporting the elite unit that killed Osama bin Laden went behind enemy lines in North Korea using night vision goggles.
It was incredibly risky. The stakes were very high considering how volatile the regime in North Korea is and their nuclear capabilities.
A mission so risky, said the Times, President Trump had to personally sign off on it. President Trump asked about the reported mission late today.
But I know nothing about it.
Can you confirm that it happened?
I don't know anything about it. I'm hearing it now for the first time.
The goal was to plant a newly developed listening device, basically a bug, on the shore in North Korea. And the way that the United States was going to do that was by sneaking a nuclear-powered sub right up to the coast and then deploying 2 small mini-subs packed with a small team of Navy SEALs. Those Navy SEALs would go to the beach, go on shore, and plant the bug. But when they got to the shore, which they thought was going to be empty because it was the dead of winter and the dead of night, they encountered an unexpected boat. And not knowing whether it was a security patrol or whether they'd been spotted, they opened fire and they killed everyone on that boat.
They say the SEALs used 2 mini-subs to get as close to the shore as possible. Riding with open hatches, they used heated dive suits to protect from the freezing water. The SEALs swam the final stretch to shore. Their number 1 priority, move undetected. They cut all communication, and unlike most missions, they had no drones overhead to warn about possible dangers. So when the SEALs caught sight of a North Korean boat, they had no one to ask for permission and acted immediately, shooting everyone on board. Once they got to the boat, there were no weapons and no uniforms. The men appeared to be fishermen. The SEALs issued a distress call and left without planning the listening device, according to the officials.
And so, look, I'm not here to dog on Special Forces military guy. Like, those missions have to be impossibly hard, right? I get it. Total respect. My only point for bringing that up is, how hard those kind of missions are, right? We went to plant a listening device, right? And now we went to recover a UFO or technology or something. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about, right? And then you say, Patrick, yeah, but Special Forces has successful missions all the time. I get it. I agree, right? And things happen all the time. You don't hear about those successful missions, right? So is it possible? Sure. But North Korea is different. And that dynamic is way different. It's not like we're going to fly in like we did in Venezuela to get Maduro. We're going to do the same thing in North Korea to get Kim Jong-un. That's just not happening the same way, right? Especially with the connection to South Korea and the implications of what that could start, right? That could just start a complete dislocation of Korea between North and South and a war between them, right? Like the fact that America would take that risk. One thing is to go plant a listening device. Another thing is to break into some warehouse or something and steal. How are they getting it out of there, right? I mean, these Navy SEAL guys had to go in a nuclear submarine, right? Like, how are we getting this stuff out of there? Are we moving it to South Korea? And you think South Korea is just going to hold it for us? Yeah, no problem. We'll take care of it for you. I don't think people understand the dynamics between North Korea and South Korea. So look, here's a clip of a Special Forces guy who trained in South Korea, right? Did the Navy SEALs training, their version in South Korea, but he also did the Navy SEALs training in America, right? In San Diego. He went to Korea to serve because he's, Korean. And he's got a nice perspective of both sides here.
If you could kind of characterize the threat level, I guess, that North Korea faces for South Korea and how that impacts your training and readiness.
Yeah, so most Koreans don't want a war with North Korea, and it's not because we feel like we're going to lose. We feel very confident that if a war does break out, South Korea would prevail, South Korea would win, and but not easily. And the reason being is because North Korea, they have a lot of artillery aimed at Seoul, and Seoul is not very far from the border. Because of that, our entire the capital city is Seoul, and the main government's there, and very modern buildings, modern city. 50 years of reconstruction after the Korean War put a lot of blood and sweat into rebuilding South Korea, and the heart is Seoul. So to sacrifice Seoul for war, it's not worth it for most Koreans. And most Koreans and the military, they don't feel it's worth it. So what do we want? It's just to coexist.
I imagine, a war between North Korea and South Korea isn't just those two countries fighting. I mean, it would essentially be China, Russia, North Korea versus Korea and South Korea and the United States. No, I mean, the implications are enormous for something like that happening.
Right. Yeah.
All right, betters. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Look forward to reading everything. And, what do we do with this story, y'all? What do y'all think, right? How long can we take all these bombshells every week, right? I'm going to keep putting it until they stop doing it. That's how it's going to work, right? And I see people all the time that get so upset when I use bombshell. Like, oh, you ruined the word. You don't know what you did. Like, are you watching the show? It is what it is. I want to thank everyone that supports the channel and supports my way of doing it, right? I appreciate it. I mean that. And I'm going to continue to, rock my way. It's the only way I know. I can only be me. So anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, Veras, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.